This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Blue sky, smiling at me, nothing but...
Hello, Quiet Rioters. This is Alexandro.
Bluebird.
Somehow, organically, our little community became intertwined with BlueSky. For many listeners, we have been the pier to which they have moored when moving to BlueSky from the bad place. Back in August, we did a special where I chatted to the chief of operations at BlueSky all the way in San Francisco. That recording became a sort of reference guide with thousands of people listening to it and hundreds still recommending it every day. We promised you a catch-up back then as the platform develops. And it's been a busy period with BlueSky doubling in user numbers in the last 3 months. So we talked to Rose Wang again over the weekend. Now, we decided to put the episode out today as a sort of election palate cleanser. Nothing to do now but get anxious. So relax, take your mind off the states, and enjoy. Quiet Riot. Rose Wang, welcome back to Quiet Riot.
Hi, Alex. It's great to be back.
Lovely to have you. Now, Rose, it's been quite an eventful few months since last we spoke. First of all, on the technical side, there's been, I think, 3 major updates with lots of new features. Talk us through the main ones.
Last time we chatted, it was late August of 2024, so It hasn't been that long. And maybe right before I get into the new features, I would love to give a brief intro of BlueSky to some of the new listeners who didn't catch our last chat.
Perfect.
Awesome. Most people see BlueSky as just a Twitter alternative, so I want to set the record straight. BlueSky was created because we no longer wanted a small group of people deciding who gets to be on social media platforms. If you think about the worlds before BlueSky, it was a small group of people on these walled garden platforms like Twitter and Facebook who decide who gets to be on there, what they see, how we all interacted. And it's a lot of power concentrated with a small group of people. And the whole vision of BlueSky is let's take that power and distribute it to the people. So what does that look like? It means if you don't like the feed that you are using, there are 50,000 other feeds on BlueSky that were created by users that you can go and look at. That also applies to moderation services. And so even though on the surface we might look similar to your experience on those other social platforms, it's completely a different interaction model where it's all about giving users choice because you are building the world with us. And if you don't like our experience, you can choose another one.
Or you can indeed construct your own feed and your own moderation parameters.
Exactly.
And start your own thing. And I know you don't like pointing this out, but I like pointing this out. When you say a small group of people control what you see and how you interact with others, what you mean is a small group of men. And to me, it's incredibly significant that there are 2 women at the top of BlueSky, and not at all unrelated to the fact that you started from a guardrails first attitude that unless the moderation is right and the safety of the place is right, then it's not a good environment in which to enjoy yourself.
Thank you for pointing that out, Alex. And
You should just hire me.
We work well together. What can I say? Yeah, I would say that that's something I think we talked about last time, which is, Jay and I are 2 women who've been on the internet for decades. And we know firsthand that you can't have fun unless you feel safe. And so going back to your question of, what have we launched since we last talked in terms of features, I will talk about trust and safety. And that's not typically what social media companies first talk about. They talk about the growth and all the fun, fancy features, and we have those. But at the same time, we've always put moderation and trust and safety as a first priority. And so, for example, on BlueSky, user reports from the past quarter show that about 50% of the reports come from two main issues: rude content and accounts that turn out to be fake, scams, or spam.
Mm-hmm.
And rude content in particular can make people hesitant to connect or share. In our first experiment, we're working on detecting toxic replies, since users say that that's where they encounter the most negativity. So our goal is to identify rude replies and flag them for moderators. And over time, we're going to reduce the visibility of these comments within the app. And if an account repeatedly posts rude comments, it will receive a warning label and eventually may face suspension. So here's an instance where rudeness doesn't necessarily violate the terms of service or community guidelines on most other platforms, but it degrades the experience so much. And so on BlueSky, there's an option of these labels where we don't ban people, they're not suspended, but we're giving more context to other users that, hey, this account has been engaging in rude behavior. And that over time will help the network become less rude, because if there are consequences for being rude, then you're going to be less. We've also introduced geography-specific labels to balance the freedom of speech with legal requirements. Last time we were on the show, we were talking about how freedom of speech in the UK is seen a little bit differently than freedom of speech in the US.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it really hard for these global platforms to moderate, because we have global citizens. And so the way that we're looking at it is, if we get a valid legal request from a local court or government to remove certain content, we may restrict access to that content in the affected region. And this approach helps us support open expression on BlueSky while also complying with local laws.
Right.
So those are some of the things that we've shipped. And then, of course, in terms of major features, we've shipped video, which is the one that I think most people are very excited about.
Yeah, it's made a huge difference, I think, to the feel of the platform. It's made a big difference to me also as a content creator, especially for the corporates. Now, we can't not talk about the Brazil blow up. Last time I spoke to you, I was like, are you ready for massive expansion if it happens? And you were like, sure, babe, no problem. And then half of Brazil decided to join. And I think you had a little bit of adjusting to do, didn't you?
I would say, peeling the curtain back a bit, we were as surprised as anyone else that half of Brazil came to BlueSky when X was banned. And it was happening in real time for all of us. I don't think the team slept for about 48 hours trying to keep the service online. And I'm proud to say that we had no downtime, despite the fact that I think a couple million Brazilians came onto BlueSky in the course of like 2 to 3 days. And we get asked all the time, like, why were we surprised? I think a lot of people think that BlueSky is bigger than we are. They're like, oh, weren't you investing in marketing in Brazil? And I respond, well, actually, we're a 20-person team with no marketing budget. And when X was banned in Brazil, users could actually only post text and images. We hadn't released video yet. And Brazilians are extremely chatty, extremely social, and they love posting videos. So I didn't think that they'd come to BlueSky. And so we were discovering it with everyone else as X was getting shut down in Brazil, kind of from region to region. And in hindsight, there were hints that this might happen. So from February to April of last year, when we were still in invite only and had about 10,000 users, a group of Brazilian LGBTQ users, as well as Brazilian Taylor Swift fans, part of that first 10,000 users. And so, to be honest, I guess Brazilians have always been a part of BlueSky. And then April of this year, President Lula joined BlueSky as the first head of state to be a part of BlueSky. And so many other Brazilians followed him. So looking back, I can map out the hints that maybe this was going to happen, but we now live in a world with lots of options. There's Mastodon, there's Threads. And so the fact that Brazilians chose BlueSky, I think, was a big moment, not just for Brazil, but for us, the team, realizing, hey, there's something we're doing that's resonating with folks without us spending massive amounts of money trying to reach new users. And that's what's exciting, is it turns out people want choice. It's that simple.
Yeah, and it was fascinating, Rose, that British Twitter, which had been the previous sort of big wave of joiners, were all like, "Hi, Brazil." There was a real, there was a real camaraderie, in welcoming all the new people that had just joined. Now, question: since Twitter was turned back on, obviously some people will have gone back to it, but on the whole, what sort of percentages did you find that stayed with BlueSky, as it were?
Yeah. So what we found, which is what we've expected and seen across markets, not just in Brazil, but the UK, in Germany, in Korea, in Japan, is that there's a large percentage of users who stay on BlueSky because they've made friends. And so what we're seeing is that even though X has come back on in Brazil, there's still a large number of Brazilians who've stayed, and they're actually cross-posting across their different accounts. You can cross-post with tools like Buffer, and we're working with Sprinkler to build more of these capabilities for brands. And so I don't think that that's going to go away. I think users are staying because of the friends that they've made, and this is now their community.
Have you had any other significant joining waves, as it were, that were either geography specific or group specific?
Well, Alex, I think when we talked in August, we had about 6 million users on BlueSky, and now we're about 13.6 million. So
more than double.
More than doubled in about 3 months. And so it's not just Brazil. We've had about 2 ways that people have joined BlueSky, through event-driven growth and community-driven. And so not only has the Brazil bump been the big, growth spurt from this event-driven growth, but also in the last few weeks, X has changed the blocking behavior on X, where it's more like strong mutes. And so basically it means that blocking a user will stop that person from engaging with the blocker's post, but will not stop them from viewing the post. That angered a lot of users, and we had over 500,000 users come to BlueSky overnight when that news dropped. And most of those users actually came from the US. And since several million others have come over, and we're seeing a lot of users from the artist community, from a lot of developer communities, and then as well as VTubers, journalists. So we're seeing lots of new users come on, and now concentrated more in the US, Korea, Japan is the new big waves.
Have you recruited? Are you recruiting? Is the team getting bigger?
What we're inspired by is WhatsApp and Instagram's teams that were small despite the large number of users they served. I think WhatsApp had about 55 people before they were acquired, and 32 were engineers, and most of the rest handled support. And Instagram was a team of 13. And so we like keeping the team small because it means we move quickly, we move in the same direction, but it also means that every person on the team is load bearing. And so we like to hire people with a ton of experience, like our head of trust and safety, Aaron, who used to run election integrity at Twitter through the 2020 elections. And so we hire very senior folks who basically run whole departments, and we haven't changed that. And where we've experienced more hiring is, of course, with moderators who speak different languages. And then, I think we are going to keep our mighty team of 20 core folks, and don't see that changing in the foreseeable future.
Amazing.
Quiet, Riot. Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
You mentioned the election. I'm not going to ask you political questions, but I have seen a lot of people saying on Twitter X, I'm staying here until the US election and then I'm off. And I've seen that sentiment a lot. There is a sort of an unwillingness to cede ground, I guess, to Elon Musk. But a lot of people are setting that as a cutoff. Are you preparing for a possible big wave of joiners just after the election?
I would say that at this point, we're always prepared for a big wave, no matter what, because we don't know when that's going to happen. And we did take on about, 4 or 5 million new users with Brazil and didn't have downtime. So we feel like we're going to be prepared no matter what happens. But to say that I can predict what's to come would be a lie because this past year has been quite unexpected. This election is going to be a moment for our different platforms to show what we care about, where our values are. And what I can tell you is that BlueSky, one, welcomes political discourse on the platform, unlike Threads that downranks political content. I can tell you that we don't know what the state of X's trust and safety team looks like. We've, as I mentioned, hired over Twitter's former head of election integrity, and Aaron used to also be the co-lead of trust and safety. And so he's bringing that leadership over to BlueSky. So we take moderation very seriously. And then we have a lot more fine-grained moderation tools to give users context on posts. So for example, I talked about these labels of rudeness. We also have labels for information that is unconfirmed. So basically information that is not considered misinformation because it isn't confirmed to be false, but it's also unconfirmed. And so
it doesn't come from a source that is considered definitive, basically.
Correct. And so by having more of these fine-grained tools, we think that BlueSky is going to be a much more informed platform for users. And then we're giving users the authority to make decisions for themselves rather than coming down from the top down with the power of being a partisan platform and choosing to elevate one candidate over another, which is what's happening on X.
What if Musk ends up with a prominent position in a possible Trump White House? I mean, you are a direct competitor. Does that give you any pause for concern?
The reason why BlueSky was created was to prevent the exact situation that's happening right now, which is one person who has power and decision-making makes decisions that impact hundreds of millions of people, and there's nothing you can do about it except to try to petition that one individual or that small group of individuals. And so what BlueSky has done from the beginning is to be resistant to these powers. And how we've done that is we've open sourced our code. We've open sourced every element of BlueSky so that if you try to shut us down, you can't really because it's open and any dev can go and copy and paste that and create a copy of BlueSky overnight. And we've made it really easy for folks to port over their accounts and their data. And so in some ways, we've made this resistant to a small group of people trying to attack us or shut us down. And so I think that this is exactly the world that we want to prevent, right? Overnight, X has become a platform with an opinion about who should win the US presidential election. That's pretty wild. It's no longer a public square for all. And now it's a partisan walled garden. And so they can make decisions like, we're going to suppress links. And so what we hope to showcase at BlueSky is that, hey, here's a space that's for you, users. If you don't like the decisions that we make, you can go make your own feed. You can go create your own moderation labels and bring your group of people together and go make your own rules. And so we hope to show that this is what is resilient about BlueSky, and this is essentially the technology we need to build more of a democratic republic online rather than these walled gardens that are controlled by, one or a few people.
You mentioned just before that, for instance, with content that is rude, you're looking at ways of reducing its visibility. Does that mean that at some point or even already there is an algorithm at work now that does select what you see and what you don't see? Or is that still completely in the hands of users, as it were?
Great question. So when you come onto BlueSky, we give you two feeds. One that's called Discover, which is more similar to people's or For You feeds on other platforms. And then there's the Following feed, which is chronological, no algorithm.
Yeah.
And so the Discover feed is a feed that we as a BlueSky team runs. And so there is an algorithm.
Right.
That said, once you come onto BlueSky, there are then 50,000 feeds, some that are algorithmic, some that aren't, but those are created by other users. So there's lots of different algorithms. There's algorithms, I think last time I talked to you about, the 4 to 5 different cat feeds that exist on BlueSky. And some
I've been enjoying the cat feed massively, I have to say. say, especially when I mix it with everything else, because it's all politics, 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 and then suddenly a kitten on a sun lounger.
That's exactly right. You need some of those dopamine hits from, once in a while. And so, some of those cat feeds are algorithmic. Algorithmic just means that it's programmatic, right? It's some sort of rule that's pulling in data in a way that's a little bit more complex than fitting a keyword. And so there's lots of algorithmic feeds on BlueSky. We run one of them, but like I said, there are tens of thousands of others that you can choose from.
Is the algorithm for you main feed, as it were, is that open source as well? So could I go and look the basis on which you enhance visibility for some things and not for others?
That's a good question. So our Discover feed, the code for that is not open yet, although that's something that we are thinking about. It's just something that we fine tune daily. And so it's constantly a work in progress, but that's a really good call out and something we should consider.
Okay, now let's talk about what happens next. First of all, in terms of development of the app, in terms of feature, in terms of things like that, what's coming down the pipeline that you're excited about?
There's a lot coming down the pipeline. There's two things I would love to talk about. One, I know that there's been a lot of complaints about threading on BlueSky, that it's super confusing. And so that's something that we're taking the time to make a lot better. And so you'll see that soon you'll be able to post threaded conversations in draft form before then you publish all of the threads. And so it's a much, I think, nicer experience of threading for especially content creators like yourself, where then you have lots of posts that essentially are more than 300 characters. And so we want to be able to give that option. And then we are launching subscriptions. I talked about this in my own account when we announced our fundraise. And the reason why we talked about subscriptions is because I think a lot of people ask, oh no, are you going to start with an advertising model now? And for us, it's no. The way that we want to grow BlueSky right now is in a way that serves the user. And one of the things that we've seen come up over and over again is people want more ways to self-express. And so we don't want to put any core features behind a paywall, but for users who want potentially like to change, their avatar frame, things like that, where they can express more of who they are, we're going to allow for that and have basically that under a subscription model.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. So almost like an online gaming model, if I can call it that, where you get bonus extras to pimp up your profile or whatever.
Yeah. This was what we learned is, even though it's more, these types of features are more common in like the Discord type of platforms that are historically known for gaming or, gamer communities. I think the nugget of truth they found is that more and more, especially Gen Z, are really excited about new ways and ways to express themselves that aren't standard to the app. And so those are the features that we're really excited about, because that's really what BlueSky is about is, hey, here's a place for you to express your many identities, and your username is eventually going to be a website. And so here on this website, you can express yourself in all sorts of different ways. You can pull in the music you like to listen to. You can pull in the post that you're most proud of. And you're not constrained to a public profile that's really standard and you can only change a few characters or a few images. But imagine if you can express way more of yourself on BlueSky. That is the nod towards where our custom domains are going is, hey, this is a place for you to have your online presence. And you can combine all your different presence across your different types of identities, whether that's professional or your social identity, and you can mix and match and decide what you want to showcase to different people across different types of interactions. And that is what BlueSky is moving towards, and what we're going to keep pushing is the world of self-expression, the world of connection.
And when do you think the subscription model might come in? Do you have a view on that?
Our goal is before the end of this year, and that's all I can say.
Right. Right. And can I maybe get a little cheeky preview of pricing points, or have you not decided that yet?
I could not because it's still in draft form. So whatever
Right,
number I
right.
now say will probably I will be held to that, and I don't think I can.
Yeah, okay, I get that. I get that. I just thought I'd be cheeky. Now, you mentioned fundraising. I also saw that you've had someone invest in your company, and there was a little bit of grumbling that I saw on Blue Sky about that particular investor having some connection to some crypto product sometime in the past. And the question I wanted to ask is this: because of the time we're living in,
Mm.
and because of what's going on X, I know that you are a place that is welcoming to everyone. But the fact of the matter is that you have ended up attracting quite a progressive, quite an artistic, quite a young crowd, right? Does that mean you're going to end up a little bit more hamstrung than other companies in the ways you fundraise and the companies you associate with? What I'm trying to get at is, will that become a millstone round your neck down the line because people will hold you to impossibly high standards that they maybe don't apply to other companies?
It's a complicated. I think fundraising is always complicated because there's a lot of preconceived notions about certain firms or their past investments. And much like a social network is about the people, I think that's how we operate as a company in terms of it's all about the people that we're partnering with. And the reason why we were so excited about partnering with this particular partner, Kinjal Shaw, is because she's extremely thoughtful about decentralization the way that we are, which is we put the end user first. It's not about technology looking for a solution. It's about what do end users care about and how can we shape the technology to serve the end user. And shockingly, it is hard to find VCs and folks who truly believe that to their core. And so what I would say is that Jay and we talked to hundreds of folks, and it was really important for us to find the right partner who understood that BlueSky's mission is about democratizing social experiences online for all. So all means your general user who doesn't understand a lot of technical abstractions, and we don't want to put those difficult technical abstractions into the app or the experience to make a certain technology work. And so where we're headed now is, even though the market has, there are certain types of users who've been more drawn to the ethos of BlueSky, it hasn't changed the fact that this is a place of user choice and any community can find their home on BlueSky because we've made these tools open so that you can create a feed. You can create literally BlueSky and call it Blue Sky or 2 or Gray Sky or Red Sky or, whatever you want to represent for your community. And that is the promise of what we've developed, is it's not for one group of people. And so I think the burden is on us to go and communicate that correctly. It's more about, to me, the outreach and the comms than it is about the technology, which is truly enabled for all, no matter who you are.
Well, I think you've done a good job communicating that to me today. Rose Wang, as always, a pleasure. I continue to be in awe of your company and a little bit in love with you.
Oh, Alex, you keep me coming back.
Thank you for chatting to us.
You too. Thank you so much.
Quiet, Riot.
As America goes to the polls and the widest voter gender gap is predicted, as Elon Musk shakes his pom-poms for a ticket characterized by toxic masculinity, while Harris, in her final speech, says she will give the people with whom she disagrees a seat at her table, it is impossible not to see broad themes of very different styles of leadership. What men start a company with safety and respect as the priority? What men start a company with the express aim to make everything open source? What male COO tells an interviewer that's a fair call-out, or that's a good idea, I hadn't thought of it? Maybe it's time to do things differently, in business and in politics. If you appreciate Quiet Riot as much as it appreciates you, and you think the work we do is worth doing, you can now support us on ko-fi.com/Quiet Riot Pod with a one-off donation or a monthly subscription. If you aren't on BlueSky yet, there is a starter pack in the show notes that makes it very, very easy. Stay brave. Not long to wait now. See you at the other end of the results with our election special broadcast live with picture and everything. Love you lots. Bye.
I never saw the sun shining so bright.
Quiet Riot is an audio production by Cooler Heads with Naomi Smith, Alex Andreu and Kenny Campbell. Music by Mariana Sangita, artwork by Simona Canelu. Quiet Riot is a co-production with Soundstone Global.
Nothing but blue skies from now on. You like that, Mama?